Hi, everyone. How are you? Thank you so much for asking me to join for your virtual patient education day. It is very exciting to join a panel of people who are not just experts, but also advocates who really put their ideas into action. Today, we are going to focus on how to tell your story with impact and with clarity. My name is Chris Smith. I work in healthcare communications, and I specialize in helping rare disease communities and companies talk about rare conditions and their impact, which is a really important job, I think, at least, in terms of the science, the clinical impact, social, financial, and personal impact. How did I end up with you today? I think part of it is the work that I've been doing with RDLA. For the last 4 years, I've been coaching advocates on how to prepare for their visits to Capitol Hill. I also work with professional patient advocates in the life sciences, and I'm a founder of the Rare Collective, which is a group that helps with drug development. The real reason I'm here today is each and every one of you. So a few years ago, we had an opportunity, our firm called SmithSolve, to work with Global Genes and Narcolepsy Network and others to organize meetings across the country. And many of you came together and shared your stories, your experiences, and made connections that were very powerful. We also pulled together some messages with input from many different patient groups and people to help focus the message about what's most important for narcolepsy. So it's so exciting to reconnect with each and every one of you. What we found through those meetups was strength in numbers. If you think about it like this rubber band ball, it's kind of like every story and every experience is just a little bit different, but it's so powerful and unique. And when you add them up together, you have common challenges, common solutions, things to learn from each other, and the community grows. It becomes more resilient, more powerful, more interesting, hard to resist, hard not to pick it up and say, hey, look at this beautiful thing. And that's what we want to do. We want to create compelling stories and learn from each other and grow as a community. That's one of the approaches we've taken to coaching advocates for Rare Disease Week on Capitol Hill. So we realized we couldn't give everyone a chance to practice. So this year, for the first time, we partnered with RDLA to create a video booth where you could drop by and share your story on video and get some coaching in terms of what works well, where you might be able to improve, how to tell your story in a very short period of time, because that's really important because you may only have a few seconds, a few minutes to explain what's up and what's going on and what you need. So we're going to share some examples, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the ideas that went into preparing some of the stories.
Hi, my name is Heather. This is Hope, the Pompeii sloth. In the Pompeii community, we've identified the sloth as our mascot because they are slow like we are. As I said, I have Pompeii disease. Pompeii affects my muscles, my joints, my diaphragm. People in the Pompeii community have a buildup of glycogen in their muscles, and we don't produce enough of the enzyme called alpha glucosidase, which breaks down that glycogen. As the glycogen builds up, we have muscle pain and weakness. We have wasting of our muscles, which can affect our walking, our ability to breathe. It can affect cardiac muscles. I am here to ask my representatives to support the Newborn Screenings Saves Lives Act, to ask them to reauthorize it. 95% of rare diseases do not have a treatment or a cure. In the Pompeii community, we are fortunate to have a treatment in the form of enzyme replacement therapy, which puts the enzyme alpha glucosidase back into our body to help us break down the glycogen. Enzyme replacement therapy is not a cure, it's a treatment, and it will slow the progression of Pompeii.
Terrific. So I think you can see that Heather added some personal details, explained the impact of the disease in human terms. So that's something that we're going to talk about and how to customize, not just for legislative audiences, but all audiences. It doesn't stop with recording. You can also share your messages on through your social media channels. Much like many of you are doing in the narcolepsy community, this is a post about Suddenly Sleepy Saturday and recognition from the governor of New Jersey, which is where we're from. So how do you get started? First, you want to prepare your story. It begins with setting a goal. What would you like to achieve? Knowing your audience, what is their level of knowledge, what's their comfort, what's important to them, and then preparing a message that has a beginning, middle, and end, some supporting facts, a call to action, and is concise. It can really fit into the elevator ride, so to speak, or be condensed into a tweet, and then practicing so it feels very, very comfortable. So what is the purpose of your story? It could be many different things, but it's important to land on one or two so you can really focus your work. It could be to raise awareness, simply let people know that narcolepsy is out there, improve understanding. There could be some myths and misperceptions about, why are you tired all the time? Aren't you feeling rested because you get so much sleep? Ensuring access to quality care and timely diagnosis. Oftentimes people struggle and they don't need to. And if they can find out more information, that's helpful. Securing funding for research and for better treatments, passing legislation, raising money for education, or increasing community involvement are all goals that you might have in telling your story. Your story fits into a broader conversation. So this wheel on the right here shows there's a lot of people who are talking about conditions. The story is not complete unless you are a part of it, because it's really about you and what's the experience of people living with it and their families. So we want to make sure that you feel very, very empowered. You are incredibly important. The benefits of storytelling are not just the big picture, they can also be very personal. You can become a better self-advocate the more you tell your story, because you're going to increase your participation in decisions about your life and your condition. You're going to get answers to important questions. You're going to share those answers with other people who can need them and benefit from them. Breaking down feelings of isolation is very important. And also when opportunities arise, let's say there's a new bill for funding, or let's say there's a challenge with insurance and getting access to the right medicine. That's the time when the community can really mobilize to make a huge difference. There are some basic principles that are really important. These are the rules of the road. First and foremost, you're in the driver's seat. When you tell your story, it belongs to you. No one can challenge it, no one can question it, because it's your experience. And you can set the ground rules about how much you want to share and what's personal and private and what's important for everyone to know. You want to be mindful of balancing fact and emotion. These are things that hit close to home. The impact is real and it's really felt, and you can share some of that. But you also want to add in some facts. How many people suffer from this? How long did you go without a diagnosis? What's the impact on your day-to-day life? Can you fulfill all the responsibilities and things that you want to do as a family person or as on the job or in school? Finally, less is more. You don't need to tell your whole story beginning to end. You need to tell the important parts that really drive to an action. Most stories are constructed like a problem solution call to action. I was having trouble because I was tired all the time and didn't know. I finally got the answers that I needed, and now I want everyone to know so they can get help quickly. So that's an example of moving from problem solution to call to action. Remember, when you're sitting down with someone, get your messages in early, keep it short and simple, you're the expert, and speak naturally. It's more important that you share what's your experience is without a script. You don't need to memorize it. So what are some examples of situations that could come up? You may be wanting to know, how do I describe the impact of narcolepsy? How can I correct misperceptions? Help others get a timely diagnosis? How and when do I tell my employer about my condition? There's certainly a lot of accommodations that are appropriate. There's also legal considerations. But it's important for you to know your rights and for you to feel comfortable sharing your story in a clear and accurate way at the right time. How do you talk to teachers and friends? How do you address that school setting, handle social situations, dating, relationships? How do you ask for what you might need? in terms of flexibility with schedules, access to medicine, support, understanding. All those things are really important to look at. Who are you speaking with? It could be families and friends, employers, coworkers. It's important to describe narcolepsy in a clear, simple definition and avoid medical jargon. Describe what it means to you on a day-to-day basis. I think that has even greater resonance. And then let people know how they can help. Here's a terrific example from Prevention Magazine. And Maya McDowell shared her story about what I wish people knew about living with narcolepsy. And to be a college student and to have all these social, academic, extracurricular opportunities in front of you, and you're not able to enjoy them fully. So this is an example of how she brought that to life, that she couldn't sit through a 45-minute lecture without dozing off, or why she woke up in the middle of the night feeling like she couldn't move her body. This includes a really simple definition of the condition. It's a chronic sleep disorder that causes overwhelming daytime drowsiness and sudden attacks of sleep. You would think people know what narcolepsy is by now, but you need to remind them, and you need to reinforce the message. Here's another example from Roxanne Summers from Huffington Post. I didn't take my narcolepsy seriously until I fell asleep and almost killed a family. And this shows that vulnerability of, this is the impact on my life and on others, and this is why this is so important and it deserves to be talked about. So what I experience, others can be aware of, and they don't have to experience it. It's so important. I wanted to share some examples from outside of narcolepsy as well. Podcasts are a great opportunity to both share lessons learned and bring new voices into the mix. This is a podcast called Two Disabled Dudes. Kyle Bryant, he's a smiling guy with a hat on and in the bicycle. He is the ataxian. He suffers from Friedreich's ataxia, which is a neuromuscular condition that weakens the body, and yet he cycled across the country and leads a similar ride for Friedreich's ataxia. What's interesting is how his story has gone from being so specific to Friedreich's ataxia to be more about how to cope with life. So some of his posts and some of his guests, that's his friend Sean Baumstark there, look at how to cope with quarantine. A guest who talked about no arms, no legs, no problems. 4 tips for making decisions. I think everyone can benefit from that kind of message. Funding research one cookie at a time. So these are highly relatable ideas that people can take note of, can be interested in. And so it shows life is so much more than a condition for Kyle and for Sean and for each and every one of us on the webcast today. I'm going to share another video that looks at a number of different voices from Fast Forward for Rare.
One of the biggest challenges facing rare disease advocates is the silent diseases. We don't look as if we're ill.
When people think about rare disease, they tend to think of outward symptoms, wheelchairs, oxygen bags, things that they can see, feel, touch.
We're a family like every other when you look at us, but we have very special needs and children with very rare diseases, and it is always on our mind. It is always center of mind, and it is always our first decision when we make a decision.
How can you look so good and cancel appointments all the time? How is it that you don't have the energy to do this, but you find the energy to do that?
These patients might look healthy, but they all have a unique disease that is different from each other. I have 2 children with the same disease, and yet it's affected them completely different.
I hopefully look completely normal, and yet I have a whole system inside me that is attacking me.
In Travis's case, he was perfectly healthy. He was super active. In fact, in the week before he died, we celebrated his 4th birthday party with over 50 kids and adults in attendance. Everyone loved Travis, and none of us could have ever suspected that a silent killer was lurking inside.
My wish is that people be more accepting of everybody that has a silent disease or a rare disease, because you never know what somebody else is dealing with. While they may look healthy, you just never know.
Appearances can be deceiving.
So this is an opportunity to think about, too, that narcolepsy, it can be misunderstood because it may not be visible. You know the condition because you know it so much better from living it than I do. But I can imagine there are times when people don't think there's anything different, and they're wondering, why you're unable to make an appointment, or why you're tired, those kinds of things. So this is an opportunity to educate and gain strength through telling your stories together. We invite you to visit Fast Forward for Rare. The website is easy to search from RDLA, and you can see additional stories, but there's also an opportunity to record your own story. And we really invite you, encourage you, welcome you, would be so excited to see stories come from the narcolepsy community so we can review them and hopefully add them to the library and post them. As a starting point, I fully appreciate many of you are experts who have been talking about your life, your story, your family, your condition for a very long time. But sometimes when you step back and focus on it, you need some help with the basics. And how do you keep it short and tight? Here's an example of a fill in the blank that helps you get the conversation going. This can be used with legislators or other audiences. Finally, we encourage you to practice. Everyone has smartphones or has access to smartphones or tablets. Take a moment to record your own elevator pitch. How did it feel? Play it back, listen to it. Were you interesting, boring? Did you include a mix of stories and facts? Was there a call to action? Was there a specific request? And then try it again. Every time you tell a story, it will get better. So in closing, I am so incredibly grateful for the time to spend with you today. It's a gift to hear the different stories from the narcolepsy community and to encourage you. And the momentum and growth that you have is phenomenal. So congratulations to Narcolepsy Network. Keep growing the rubber band ball, and I hope to see you sometime soon, live and in person. Thanks.